February 10th, 2022. The time is 7:02 p.m. We call the meeting to order and ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Page,
Present.
Trustee Martinez,
Present.
Trustee Blair,
Present.
Trustee Kagan,
Present.
Trustee Abbott,
Present.
Trustee Krusek,
Present.
Mayor Cunningham.
Present.
Quorum established.
Thank you so much. If you would please join us in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by everyone there this evening. And we thank you again for being here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
To the Republic,
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The purpose of this evening's meeting is for a prospective applicant to provide the village board and our neighbors a concept of their proposed development. For members of the public who have joined us this evening regarding this topic, first, we welcome you all again, and we look forward to hearing from you, and thank you so much for being here. We have dedicated time for public comment immediately following the applicant's presentation to the board. So I'm going to ask that you please hold your comments until then. If you haven't done so already, if you wish to submit a written public comment on tonight's topic, you can do so by going onto the village's website and going to the public comment page for further instructions. It is important to note that the village board will not be taking any formal vote or action this evening. This is a pre-application presentation, which means that the applicant has not yet submitted a formal application for development. The benefit of this type of pre-application meeting is it allows the applicant to receive preliminary input from the village board and our neighbors before making a final decision to move forward and spend considerable time and dollars in the preparation of any detailed plans or architectural drawings. Equally as important, this type of pre-application meeting serves as a forum for our neighbors and neighboring property owners or other interested members of the public to express viewpoints or concerns regarding potential development via our public comment process. Before we start this evening, I've asked our village Administrator Stonich, to provide us information regarding the ongoing village comprehensive zoning code update work that we've been doing. Administrator Stonich.
Thank you, Mayor Cunningham, members of the board, good evening. We've received a few questions over the last week or so in preparation for this meeting on the status of the village's comprehensive zoning code update. So I'll just give a kind of a cursory overview of where we're at this time. It was identified over a year ago by the village board as a strategic priority. Our zoning code stems from the early to mid 1970s, so it is in need of an update and something we've recognized. There are essentially four phases to this project. The contract award to Tesca and Associates occurred in June of 2021, and then commenced phase one via a kickoff meeting in August 2021. We, as staff, met with the consultants, gave them an overview of the objectives of the study, also provided a bus tour of the entire village for them so they can get a sense of our community as a whole. And we solicited preliminary input from the plan commissioners as well. This was actually at the August 16th plan commission meeting, just as they are an important part of our zoning and entitlement process. We want to be sure to engage them early on to understand what their goals and objectives are, what their concerns are, and where may be some important areas of focus for the consultants. Through September and November of last year, the consultants then solicited interviews with different zoning users past and present, in order to glean, their feedback on the village's zoning code, as well as the impressions the village development and permit processes, their impression, of our development processes from their perspective as the end user, to see if there were any opportunities for us to improve the process from an applicant's perspective. Phase 2, which is the phase we're currently in, includes a detailed technical review, including review of municipal best practices as compared to our current zoning code, a detailed legal analysis to ensure that our code complies with federal and state law, and also developments in any case law that has occurred as well. And also, it's, as I mentioned earlier, a detailed review of our development and permit process review. At present, staff is reviewing a very preliminary draft of the consultant's first review and analysis, which they provided to us just last month. Following completion of phase 2, the proposed changes will be delivered kind of several chapters at a time, or a few chapters at a time, with the consultant's recommended changes for staff review and comment, which we will then do. This will be followed then by a formal presentation of the preliminary draft of the zoning ordinance to the Plan Commission, and that'll occur in the early summer timeframe. Phase 3 of the project will include the creation of a project website, which will occur at the Plan Commission's review. And the Plan Commission will then provide their initial review and comments, which will include a public hearing and will afford an opportunity for any members of the public, property owners and the like, to provide their input and comments on the preliminary draft of the proposed changes. These workshops, Plan Commission meetings and the like will occur later this summer. Following the Plan Commission's review, it will also have probably a board workshop or two to review some of the early findings so that the board can provide some input and provide some guidance early on. After that, late summer timeframe, it'll go to the Plan Commission for, if you will, their final review and recommendation of the draft zoning code, and then provide their recommendation to the village board. And then by the October 22 timeframe is our target date for final board approval and consideration of an amended zoning code in its entirety. So these are pretty lengthy processes to overhaul a zoning code of any municipality. Our neighbor to the north, Lyle, just did one, and it took them about 12 months. So that's not uncommon, but it's an important process that we recognize, and we're making our way through it. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Administrator Stonich. Also, if I could please ask that we acknowledge at this time all written public comments that we have received and enter them into the public record, please.
Thank you, Mayor. We've received several written public comments in advance of the meeting. What I'll do is I'll indicate the name, the subject matter, and all these written public comments have been provided to the village board. Each of them have copies, and also all of these will be entered into the official public record this evening as well. First comment is Carol Schultz regarding the proposed development, and we will again enter that into the public record. Next is Ketsin Young, also regarding this development. Ketsin Young is a homeowner at 1220 Mansfield Street in Woodridge. Next is Christy Sarmiento, Darien resident, resides in the subdivision just east of Lamont Road. And so we've entered that into the record. William Yunker, who resides at 1504 Talcott Road in Woodridge. We've received his. And also, lastly, Mr. John Sealander, who is a resident of Woodridge in the neighborhood just west of the proposed development. And we've entered his comment as well into the public record. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So before we begin the public comment portion tonight, I wanted to just take a moment and just provide a few guidelines for all of us. We know that many of you have taken time out of your personal schedules to be here tonight, and we truly appreciate that, and we look forward to hearing your perspective. So thank you again for being here. Please know that the village board is very interested in listening to the public opinion on this matter. And we want to allow ample opportunity for public comment tonight so that we can maximize the number of individuals wishing to speak this evening, and that is in person or via Zoom. I will ask that we please limit our statements to 3 minutes. just to be helpful, approximately before time is up, our village attorney, Attorney Pat, will let you know that you have 30 seconds, and we would ask at that point if you would please to conclude your remarks. Once your name has been called, please come forward if you're in person and do state your name and your address for the public record. For those who have joined us, and that is again for those who have joined us at Village Hall tonight. If you are joining us via Zoom, after the public comments are made in person, we will then go to our Zoom commenters if anyone would like to make a statement this evening. If you are here and you are possibly representing several people, if you could, and I would ask that you please designate one person to make the comments on behalf of others if you are here on speaking on behalf of a group. If anyone does have a written statement or documents that you would like to present to the village board, if you would please tender them to a village team member tonight, and we will ensure that all copies are provided directly to the village board, and they will be distributed and made part of our public record for this tonight's meeting. Again, those who would like to submit a written public comment on this concept development, you can do so by going onto the village website under public comment for further instructions. And once the last speaker has been called, we will then close the public comment portion of our meeting, which will then be the time in which the village board will be provided input and ask any follow-up questions that they may have. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and Administrator Stonich, if you could help me with the public comment section.
Thank you, Mayor. So far, I have received 3 cards to who wish to make a comment here this evening. If you would like to make a public comment, we would certainly welcome you for one. But number 2, please fill out one of those comment cards if you would, please. First off, we have Mr. Phil DeBurr. If you would please approach the podium and please state your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is Phil DeBeer. I live at 8211 Dunham Road. I have been there for 34 years. Since we moved to Woodridge, we were forced annexed. This was Downers Grove Township when we moved there. And we were not happy about first being annexed into the Woodridge Park District, which we found out about on our tax bill, with a tax bill for $100 on the Park District and a $400 bill for the Park District pension fund. And then we were forced annexed in 2000 and rezoned within 8 minutes of the forced annexation to ORI, at which time we filed a lawsuit against the village and got a consent decree for our residential zoning to remain, which we appreciate. I'd also like to thank administrators, or what are they, trustees, I guess, Abbott, Blair, Martinez, and Page for your votes in September of 2020 against the last one that finally made it to a village board request. This is number 6 in proposals of what we consider to be inappropriate use of that property. I sympathize with our neighbors who have been held in limbo for all of this time and have been unable to execute their desires for change of residence or sale, and for which they blame Woodridge, which I'm not surprised. So I thought I was going to comment, and the process appears to have changed since we went through it last time, but I thought I was going to comment after the presentation by the Dremel Crow, but
We can certainly sequence it that way, Mr. DeBurr, if you would like. If you would
Right.
like to, we can go to the applicant's presentation. You can come up again and speak if you'd like.
all right, but in any case, I don't see how this proposal, from the sketchy part that we've seen, is any more appropriate use of the property than the last 5. And I hope that you use the same good judgment that you used last time in overruling it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If I could, please, it is my error. We were going to go to the staff presentation and I went right to public comment, so I do apologize. So I'm going to ask if we could hold off on further public comment and move to the presentation if we are ready this evening. And again, my apologies.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees. So tonight I would like to provide a brief presentation of, again, the proposed concept for the addresses at hand. So the addresses that are in question are 8110 Lamont Road, 8114 Lamont Road, 8118 Lamont Road, and 8200 Dunham Road. The village board, so with respect to this particular concept meeting, the village board strongly suggests that a potential developer host a meeting that includes the neighboring residents adjacent to the subject site within the village. Tonight's meeting meets that requirement. The developers meeting, quote unquote, requires that the developer notifies those interested parties, which was completed at the end of January of this year. Additionally, the village board also requires dissemination of any concept plan received from the developer to those interested parties. This task was completed by staff on February 7th, 2022. Next steps, after tonight's concept presentation, discussion, and Q&A, the developer will convene with their team and the respective property owners and will eventually inform the village if they intend on submitting officially to begin the zoning entitlement process. So I will go ahead and turn it over to the applicant, Trammell Crowe and CBRE.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. My name is Matt Mulvihill from CBRE. CBRE is a real estate consulting company. Thank you for allowing us to take this step before we really dig into the site, and we welcome all the feedback from the board and the residents. Our goal is to make this a team effort and develop something that we're all a part of and we're all proud of. We're thank you, Kim, for allowing us to do this. Thank you to your development team. Thank you to the residents for coming here tonight. I want to introduce our team that I think it's some of the brightest minds of real estate. We have Brent Duffy of Spaceco, who's been involved with the site for the last couple of years. He's really well known in the industry. Kelly Harris, who is heads up at Harris Architects, and then Trammell Crowe, who is the development arm of the team. Who is, Trammell's probably one of the most recognizable brands throughout the country. And we're lucky to have them here in Chicago to take us through this process. So, and then lastly, I want to thank the sellers, Ed, Trino, Pete, and Stan Maida for being part of the team and really trusting us to take this next step. I know they've gone through this process before, and we feel that we've addressed a lot of the challenges that have been brought previously, and we're excited about presenting and obviously the project. So I want to introduce to you Joe Noon and Morgan Bear of Trammell Crow that'll take you through the presentation. So thank you.
Can you guys hear me okay? Thank you,
Yes.
Matt, and everyone here tonight. We really appreciate the opportunity to be in front of this group with our preliminary concept plan. Before I dive into the presentation, I do first want to say that we recognize and
I need you to identify yourself for the record.
oh, I'm so sorry. Morgan Bear with Trammell Crow. My apologies. We just want to first recognize that wherever we develop and whatever product, Trammell Crow's top priority is to be a good steward of the local community. And as Matt mentioned, we are here tonight to listen, to learn, and to work together. And before we really dive into the updated site plan that we're hoping to share today, I do hope you recognize that we've incorporated a ton of feedback we've heard from past projects and really appreciate the opportunity to engage early with this group and with the community to receive feedback and understand the community's priorities. So with that, I'm excited to share a little bit more about Trammell Crow as a company. Founded in 1948 in Dallas, Texas by Trammell Crow himself, we've grown to be one of the largest real estate developers in the country. With over 2,800 properties developed, totaling nearly $70 billion. We currently, across all of our offices nationally and globally, have about 27 billion under construction and in the pipeline. And so to speak about our scale and footprint, we have over 17 offices nationally, 4 internationally, with quite a global presence. And our team here today covers the Midwest region. So Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nebraska, many other states in that region. This is our general territory that we cover. And one of the biggest benefits of being a national global developer is that we get to incorporate best practices and innovative learnings from our other offices and other projects into the projects we do here. And with that, it's a good highlight that we do specialize across many product types. So our team does a ton across many different vehicles, such as office, multifamily, life science, healthcare, with a particular attention to industrial. And so this slide highlights some of the industrial product that we've completed recently. 2 of which on this slide are actually in Illinois, so School Health and Rolling Meadows, and for our candy company in DeKalb, Illinois. Another one that we're really proud of that isn't on this slide, but another testament to the quality and design that we incorporate in the communities we develop in is Oshkosh's headquarters in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And so one item that I just want to highlight before I pass it to Joe Noon on my team to dive deeper into the site plan details is at the core of our development, ensuring that we pursue sustainable practices. So it's a top priority of Trammell Crow, but not just of the development team, but of our capital partners and future tenants. We've developed over 50 million square feet of sustainable product and are constantly looking for new design criteria to incorporate, from electric vehicle chargers to low flow toilets and LED lights. So with that, again, just really appreciative of the opportunity to be here today. Really, everyone's time on this Thursday night is a great opportunity for us to learn more. So with that, I'll pass it to Joe on my team to dive into the site plan details.
Thank you, Morgan, and thank you, trustees and members of the community for being here. Joe Noon, Trammell Crow. We really appreciate the opportunity. Not to rehash old details, but I did want to just kind of get everybody back acquainted, since it's been since 2020 when this site was last going through this process. So the site is 4 parcels, 17 acres that sits between Lamont Road and Dunham Road, if Dunham Road were extended further north, and south of a multi-tenanted facility and north of the Midwest Badminton Club. Lamont Road is a DuPage County road and under the jurisdiction of DUDOT, or DuPage Department of Transportation. And on the opposite side of Lamont Road is Darien, as previously referenced by others. As the gentleman who spoke previously, this site, amongst others, was forcibly annexed back in 1991 and 1999. And at the time of annexation was zoned ORI, or Office Research Industrial, allowing for office research and light industrial uses. It's important to note that opposite Lamont Road in Darien, there are other industrial facilities, and that zoning continues opposite Lamont Road. So just to show the zoning map, we're in that southeast corridor that's zoned ORI, highlighted in pink. ORI, like I said, allows for per code a number of uses, one of which is light industrial, but there's office and hotel. And the code implies different height restrictions on those different uses. So with industrial, it's 40 feet. With office, hotel, others, it can be 60 or 80 feet, depending on what the applicant's pursuing. In this case, we are pursuing an industrial development. So that 40-foot height is of critical importance. And what I'd like to note is the last applicant came in with an application that required a relief on that height restriction of 40 feet, proposing a building that was as measured 48.5 feet. So just to remind everyone, in July of 2020 last year, the prior applicant, this is not our site plan, the prior applicant presented this plan. It was a 32-foot clear facility, which when measured according to Woodridge code was 48.5 feet tall. It had 242,000 square feet and 48 dock positions. So that's just some context on the prior applicants to remind you of what their process was, because we want to demonstrate not only are we going to show you a code compliant building, but we're going to show you one that incorporates the feedback that that prior applicant already was provided, as we've reviewed the countless minutes of footage that you guys experienced firsthand, all of the testimony and written record. So as a reminder, this was the prior applicant's bulk information. As I stated, they were seeking relief on 4 different variables, most key of which was building height at 48.5 feet. So like I said, in the plan that we're intending to show you, not only are we going to be code compliant on that building height, but we're also not going to be seeking any other relief. So this is our proposed site plan. What I want to highlight is that this is, again, code compliant, but also takes into the feedback that the prior applicant heard when they presented their plan. The key ways in which we've accomplished that are effectively threefold. One, we've reduced the height of the building. We're proposing a 28-foot clear facility. When you think about that from floor to roof, that is about 33 feet. That said, given the way that Woodridge handles the measurement of building height, they take into account changes in grade and topography. So this building will, while structurally being about 33 feet, will measure 40 feet, or the code requirement. The other key things that we've done is lower the density and intensity compared to the prior applicant. So the prior applicant's initial plan in July of 2020 was 242,000 square feet. The plan presented in front of you right now is 217,000 square feet. So we've not only reduced the height, but we've reduced the footprint. We've also reduced the intensity, as we're showing 22 docks at this current juncture, opposed to the prior applicant's 48. A few key things that reducing the density allows us to do is move the western side of the building further east, away from the residences on Meadowwood Avenue and Dunham Road. So while the prior applicant, their first dock position was 285 feet from Dunham Road to their first dock position, you'll see here on our plan from their backyards on Meadowwood to the first dock position is 495 feet. We were able to accomplish this both by shrinking the footprint, but also adding the office wings, which are on the southern side of the building, on the east and west end. Those office wings provide additional screening and shield the dock positions, creating a better sightline environment from Lamont Road and the properties adjacent to our west, as well as dampening any effects of noise by creating a hard surface between their homes and the dock positions. So in addition to moving the building further to the east by reducing its footprint, but also adding those offices, the first dock is now 495 feet, opposed to the 285 as initially proposed by the prior applicant. In addition to reducing the height, the density, and intensity, we also tried to take away things we learned from watching the prior applicant's process and incorporate those things that were deemed positive or acknowledge the effect on the community and wanted to be left in this proposal. So for example, we're leaving the berm on the western edge of the property in place as the prior applicant had proposed, a cedar fence, and then also the screen wall, which is the black hard line you see around the truck court that will screen any truck activity in the truck area there. The other thing that we heard and learned through the prior process was there was concern for wildlife passing that used to pass from the north to the south of the property being cut off. So while we can build a fence that just runs the length of the property on the west side of the property, we also are proposing to bring that fence in closer to the building, allowing for passage of wildlife through that green space. This detention shown here is dry detention. It could have standing water at times, but most often will be dry at the bottom. So we'll allow for landscaping as well as wildlife to traverse this area. This green space is significant, and I want to highlight that with the next slide. So like I mentioned, the first dock is 495 feet from the western property line of the adjacent neighbors. 495 feet equates to Thomas Jefferson's football field here in Woodridge. So you can see I've measured across, and it actually reaches into the track beyond the boundaries of the entire football field. So when you go back to that plan, the green space here, not only are we willing to try to keep it open, but upon completion of the project, we're willing to discuss with the community ways to create either conservation easements or deed that green space as public property over to the village. So we're open to making that available to the community in some meaningful capacity. So ultimately, like I said, and just shown here and highlighted in this table, our goal is to present a 100% code compliant facility, but not just a code compliant facility, a facility that actually takes up the discussion from the prior applicant and moves the ball forward down the field as opposed to starting back at square one. So we hope that this plan that shows a smaller building, a shorter building, and a less intense building demonstrates that good effort to try and take in that feedback from the community and incorporate it into our plan. And that's what we're also excited to do here tonight in listening to the residents and you, the trustees. So we greatly appreciate the opportunity to be here. And that's all we have for our presentation at this moment. So thank you very much. And I'll turn it over.
First of all, we thank you very much to Trammell Crow and CBRE for the teams here this evening. And at this time, if I could, we're going to open up and resume our public comment portion of the meeting. And again, my apologies for earlier when I slid right past the presentation. But do want to go ahead and ask if we have any further comments from our public here this evening. And Administrator Stonich, if you could help me with that, please.
Yes, Mayor, we'll start with those in person, and then once we're completed with the in-person, we'll go to those who have joined us via Zoom. Okay, next up, Mr. William Yunker.
And again, before you start, Mr. Younger, I know you're familiar with the rules, but just in case anyone's forgotten, because it's been a little while since the mayor mentioned it, you'll give 3 minutes. And when you get to about 2.5 minutes, I'll let you know that you have 30 seconds left. And I just ask that you identify yourself by name and address for the record before you start. Thank you.
My name is Bill Yunker, and I live at 1540 Talcott Road, Woodridge, Illinois, 60517. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Village Board Trustees. I live relatively close to the business and warehouse developments by Edward Don and Company, Orbis Exhibit and Display Group, AMS Mechanical Systems, and Eunice Company along Woodward Avenue. And I believe the village and these businesses did an excellent job constructing aesthetically pleasing buildings and landscape. These businesses brought jobs and increased tax revenue to the village of Woodridge. And over the last 10 to 12 years, I have not experienced significant changes in the traffic density on Woodward Avenue, south of 87th Street, nor the amount of noise when sitting in the front and back patios of my house. Thus, I would like to express contingent support for the proposed development of the 217,000 square foot speculative office and warehouse at 8110 Lamont Road. However, the proposed warehouse borders a large residential area to the west, and I am concerned that the size of this office warehouse complex is inappropriate for its location. Thus, I encourage Tronwell Crowe to consider a smaller facility with less storage space and fewer dock doors that is more appropriate for the location, provided that noise and traffic studies show that a much smaller facility built further from the residential eastern lot lines will significantly reduce the amount of noise that nearby residents will experience. My provisional support is also conditioned on Tronwell Crowe's agreement to build and maintain a stormwater detention basin, an 8-foot cedar fence on top of an 8-foot berm, and landscaping on the western and southwestern portion of the property to provide visual and noise screening to the abutting residential properties to the west, as well as annual maintenance of the cedar fence, construction of a 14-foot screen wall along the western and southwestern portions of the truck dock and parking areas to provide additional layer screening, maintaining a minimal distance of 516 feet from the lot line that abuts the neighboring residents to the first dock door. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker I have here is Daniel Santiago.
Good evening.
Hello. My name is Daniel Santiago. I live in 8217 Meadowwood Avenue in Woodridge, Illinois. Well, my neighbors already very eloquently summarized some of the main points, but I too object to this development. And as in the last development in 2020, we voiced, the village was overwhelmingly opposed in general to this type of developments for this zone. We expressed it and we are grateful that at that time the decision was not favorable for the development. I also want to thank for following up on the suggestion that I think at that time was made by Trustee Blair on a comprehensive change in the zoning plans. However, it's unfortunate that yet again, I mean, that those have not, I know it's a lengthy process, but we're here again with a similar development. Yes, it's slightly, it's a smaller proposal, a smaller warehouse, nonetheless for, as it has been expressed, which is not in harmony, we believe, with the rest of, with the immediate neighbors of the village. So in the past, we expressed many concerns about health, traffic, and so on. So I once again, like I said, we're here and I feel for the landowners who I understand they want to sell. I sympathize with them, but then again, the proposal is of a similar spirit as what we had previously. That's my comment.
Thank you very much.
Mr. DeBurr, would you like to, now having had the benefit of the applicant's presentation, would you like another opportunity? We are not. Okay. Would anybody else who's here in person like to make a public comment? Thank you.
You just give that card to Deputy Administrator Halleck.
Good evening and welcome.
My name is Lenore Vidal, and I have spoken probably at every meeting that we've had about the development, but I just want to reiterate
Your address as well, Mayor.
my address is 1204 Longford Street. I'm approximately one house away from adjacent to the property. And I would like to also reiterate, I'm very grateful for the last proposal being declined by the board, and in particular for the suggestion of a comprehensive plan rezoning analysis, which is, again, unfortunate that we have not gotten far enough in that process for it to have made an impact at all in this decision. I think in particular, I agree that, you know, it's nice that the warehouse footprint would be slightly smaller than the prior one, but that does not make it an acceptable warehouse to put next to the residential district. I think you may recall that the tornado came through our neighborhood and destroyed a great deal of trees, and land homes were destroyed. The concept that we will then lose what is currently there in addition to what we've already lost is disheartening as well. I think from a financial fiscal perspective for the village, I've presented before on the tax impacts and the fact that a warehouse is probably the least productive from a sales tax perspective, property tax perspective, for benefit of the residents and the village, and would be another consideration I would hope that you would take to heart when you are thinking about appropriate usage for the land in your analysis of the comprehensive plan. And finally, I know that I've spoken about this as well, but the residential district is only growing with children. There's still large numbers of kids, you know, waiting for buses, wandering through the immediate area, and the impact environmentally and on their health and on their safety concerns me a great deal as a parent of small kids living in the area. So I will put together a written statement after this and submit it, but I appreciate the fact that you are allowing us to speak so early in the process. And again, thank you for listening to us.
Thank you very much.
Any other in-person comments this evening? Yes, okay, ma'am, please. Mhm.
What? Yeah.
Ma'am, we're going to let this gentleman go first, and then we'll take you next. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Stanley Maida. I'm one of the property owners, and I hear all the complaints about this and that and everything, the way it's going. And this has been going on with us for 6 years now. We've been trying to sell the property. And I think their comments, I understand their comments. They're neighbors basically to me. I try to get along with everybody. But it's reached a point that my nervous system is such that there's so many contracts and they've gone away and fallen, and it's just horrendous. And what they're doing to me is like they're devaluing the properties over there. And I'm speaking for all the people in the ORI district. Okay, the village changed the zoning on us. It restricts us. And I feel like it's got to come to the point where we start moving forward and do these developments. I've been looking at buildings and stuff throughout the area, and the new buildings Woodridge is building off of 75th Street. It's a big building, but it'll probably be a nice building to stand out. And we shouldn't be scared of those. Those are 21st century type of buildings. It's not little piecemeal stuff where I believe that it's hard to police. There's people that are doing all their little things here and there inside those buildings. And I feel that we should move forward and consider everything that's good for Woodridge and good for everybody, including us in the OR district, which the Darien side is all developed on that side, it looks like, and they've got all their stuff there. They got the corners on 83rd Street. We've got nothing there on 83rd Lamont Road. And the people along 83rd Street going west from Lamont Road, most of them want to sell their properties. The ones on the going north on Lamont Road there from 83rd to corner, they want to sell their property, want to do something with it. You know, it's just sitting there. They're paying taxes. They're not getting any place, you know, and they feel like they're hindered. You can't build anything on your property.
Seconds, sir. You have 30
And
seconds.
you're just in trouble all the time. And we're trying to stay ahead of things. We have to move forward. And the village has to think about us too. We've done a lot to work with the village in the past, and since '68, we lived in that area and nothing's happened.
Your time is up, sir.
And we need to move forward. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next up we have Kristen German. My apologies if I'm not pronouncing your last name correctly.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. I'm Kristen Jeroman at 9015 Coppergate Road, Woodridge. So I'll start by saying, I guess I am a little disappointed that we're here again after the last proposal. I didn't think when it was rejected on the basis that something better belonged here, that we'd be looking at another distribution warehouse. But I do want to acknowledge all the considerations that have been made from an architectural standpoint, and all the input from the previous development that's been looked at in this plan. But some of my questions, which I know won't be answered tonight, I just want to throw them out there to the developer. I am an architect, and that's where these questions are coming from. But the clear height, it sounded like all efforts are being made to reduce the height of this as much as possible. So I wanted to know if the clear height, the 28-foot clear height, was going to be the whole building, or if it would be limited to the high pile storage bays, and if we could lower the speed bay in an effort to lower that parapet wall height. Also, what is the roof slope going to be looking like? The drainage, is it going to be single sloped, pitched to two sides of the building, pitched to all four sides of the building? Also, in an effort to lower that building height as much as possible. The 22 docks that I saw, based on my calculations of 486 feet of dock space, it looks like we could fit more in there. So I wanted to know how many of those are there going to be knockout positions for future docks, or will it be limited to just 22 docks, period? Also, one of the big concerns that came up in the previous development was that the noise concern within 300 feet. And I realized that first dock door is 500, or I guess it was 495 now. The turnaround for your trucks and the trailer parking are still well within that 300 feet. So just wanted to see if what was being considered about that, if we could push that turnaround radius a little farther to minimize that noise of trucks in the night for the residents right there. And then last question I had was just, what is the end user for this? Or, being a speculative building, what's the long-term plan for this building to be a good steward to the neighborhood and the community? So those are just some of my questions that hopefully can get answered if the development moves forward. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next speaker, Gary Popek, please.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Gary Popek, and my family has lived on 8,000 Lamont Road since 1965. We've had good years, we've had bad years. And I'll tell you right now, I've listened last 2 years, I've listened to all the Zoom calls, I've listened to all the complaints and all the petty business that goes on at the last proposal. And I want to be optimistic, but I think this proposal is going to suffer the same fate. And I think that some of you trustees who live behind us, the west of Dunham Road, I think you guys would have been run out on a rail if you would have supported the proposal of 2 years ago, because your neighbors wouldn't have dug that. Now, you guys need to make a decision for the benefit of the village. And you're holding hostage property owners who, as Mr. Maida said, their property values are going down. Their property, they can't do squat with their property. He can't build a pole barn to cover his vehicles from the weather because it's ORI or ROI or whatever the hell that thing is. But you know, you guys are going to have to make a decision for the benefit of the village, regardless of the opposition from all of those $400,000, $500,000 homes that are sitting behind us, west of us, on old Charlie Ides land. You know, this is really, I don't give a damn where you guys live. There's people here who want to move on with their lives. You guys are moving on with their lives, and we're sitting here vegetating. And as far as the wildlife goes, get real. You're building a building and you're pushing out all the wildlife. Where the hell do you think they're going to go? Wherever there is open land. So, you know, that business with the wildlife is a crock. And like I said, I've listened to all of these Zoom calls last 2 years and all the pettiness and all the garbage that goes on, all the excuses of noise and pollution, and my children can't ride their bicycles through the neighborhood. You try riding your bicycle down Lamont Road, for crying out loud, and see if you get from 83rd Street to 75th Street in one piece. I really had it. I really am. And you know, you guys need to make a decision here for the benefit of the village and let these people who are sitting here vegetating for years now to move on with their lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I'll make one last call here for any in-person comments before we go to those who are registered via Zoom tonight. Okay, if you would please complete a card for us. Thank you. And I'll take the card here if you don't mind.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Denise Jacobazzi. And I've been to meetings for
Your
probably
address, ma'am?
20 years. Okay, the address is 1240 83rd Street, Downers Grove. So I've been a homeowner since 1979. And we bought out here because we liked the property. It was quiet, peaceful. We are forcefully annexed by the village, forcefully. We fought it. We were at meetings. We had people show up, not as many, you know, I mean, at the time there were quite a few people and we had no choice. So I'm one of the homeowners that's being held hostage. Okay, I'm on 83rd. There's a group of us. Over the years, we've had countless offers, and every time it gets voted down by the village. I mean, there are people on Lamont Road. I feel sorry for them too. We're stuck. We can't sell our house residentially. You can't get a mortgage. So whoever buys it, someone could live in it residentially, but how many people, you know, have cash these days to pay for a house? You can't get a mortgage on a commercial property, even if it's a residential property. So the village, you know, voted for this over 20 years ago, and we did not want it. We were forced, and now we are being held hostage. You know, so, and I feel sorry for the people. I mean, really, you know, on the east side, you know, the west side of Downham Road. I mean, everyone wants to get along, have a nice development. You know, no one wants their property value to go down, no matter where you live, you know, close to it. So I would want to have everyone to be happy. But the village forced this on us. And now, what are you going to do? You wanted it. You forcefully annexed it because the church wanted to go in there. Church wanted to buy 10 acres. They did not want a church in there. Why? Well, because they don't pay taxes. Real estate taxes like commercial or residential. They wanted the commercial tax base. Now, here we are, there's what I don't know how much, she probably knows how many acres, 30 acres roughly. And we're all getting older. I can't pick up
30
and sell
seconds,
my
ma'am.
house and move on. So the village needs to make a decision. Are you going to keep declining things or buy it and develop the property to whatever everyone wants to get? So either make a decision to pass things or have the village buy our property and then you guys develop it. Figure out something that makes everybody happy. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Okay, and next up, Kathy Case.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Kathy Case, 1212 Longford Street in Woodridge. We've been homeowners for about 34 years now. And my question really is also to the proposed Trammell Crow. Knowing that we're working to get the property rezoned, knowing that the last 5 times the proposed warehouse was voted down, what is the appeal of this property to you moving forward? Why would you be willing to invest more time, more money for hopefully no production, no benefit to you, to the village? We have tons of empty stores up and down Woodward at the Home Depot area. There's no residential. They're used to that area being commercial. Why can't we look at other properties that exist that are empty, that are providing no production and taxes to the city or to the village? What happened to International Parkway? What happened to all these other designated areas for industry to provide income for our village? Why are we constantly looking at areas? I don't understand the appeal of being a forced annex right from the get-go. It was so wrong, and it continues to be inappropriate proposals, especially now that we are attempting to move forward with this rezoning. If Lombard, it took a month or a year, 12 months, why are we pushing on 2? I don't understand how we are supposed to move forward with the current owners also frustrated. They can't sell, they can't move forward. We're concerned with the safety and everything that goes with having a warehouse in an inappropriate area. So I just kind of wanted to point that out to the board, to the proposed company. I don't understand your appeal in our area when time and time again, it hasn't worked out. It's not right. And you're going to invest a lot of
30
time and
seconds, ma'am.
resources for hopefully, again, what is going to be a failed proposal and a failed project. Woodridge offers other areas that were built specifically for warehouse industry. And I would encourage you to ask the village maybe to show you those areas so you can move forward in a more productive manner.
Thank you.
Next up, Corey, is it Mofield?
Good evening.
Good evening. Corey Mofield. I live at 1201 Chesham Court. My property is immediately west of the proposed development. I guess first of all, I'd like to thank the village for stopping the last development. And in that theme, thank the new developer for taking into account the comments and what was said there. I think what we can learn from that is there's still something better out there for this property. The last proposed development came in at over 250,000 square feet proposed. They moved it down a little bit, made it a little bit smaller, made it a little bit better, more palatable for the existing homeowners in the area. And I recall at one of the last meetings, the developer then said, well, we can't make it any smaller. It's not feasible from an economic standpoint. Well, we know that was a false statement. So I think
Nobody is denying that there's, those property owners there were wronged 30 years ago when the village annexed that. But doing that to, perpetuating another wrong on the property owners who are going to be left in the community there isn't the solution here. I think anybody that lives there acknowledges that development of some sort is likely to come. But I think I would urge everybody to say, is this the best thing for that property? Is it the best? Because I don't think it is. Again, we've seen in the last proposal that there could be something better. We see tonight that there's something better than what their best proposal was. And until we can say this is the best that's going to be done with that property, I would be in opposition to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, one final call here for any in-person comments, please. Mr. DeBur?
Good evening again.
Good evening, Phil DeBure, 8211 Dunham. Two questions. One to Trammell Crow. Based on, our north property line is 600 feet of their southwest property line, and truck docks are on the wrong side of the building from our standpoint. So flip the building if you're going to actually put it there. Second question is to each of you. I'd like to ask you to consider these things as if you lived where I live. Is this what you want next door? As we've discussed several times, as the neighbors, we don't think this is an appropriate use of the property. So is this what you want next to you?
Thank you.
Any remaining folks who are in person who would like to make a public comment? Okay, Mayor, there are none. You can go to Zoom, who have registered if you'd like.
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Al.
Ryan Liu, you are invited to speak.
Yes, this is Brian Liu. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Can everyone
you.
hear him? Okay.
Thank you, the board and the mayor, for this opportunity for get the neighbors involved in this early stage of this proposal.
Mr. Liu, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I know you can't necessarily see me, but please remember to identify yourself by name and address, okay?
Okay, sure. Brian Liu, I live at 1216 Britton Street, Woodridge, Illinois. So, and again, I think that hearing from the property owners and also all the neighbors, I think that really to move on, turning into from a lose-lose situation to a win-win situation. It's very important, and I think that from the comments from the neighbors, I think it's really the zoning change. I think it's I really request that the board, in considering the zoning change, and consider something that's not warehouse type, office or commercial, not warehouse. I think this one, so that the property owners can move on and the neighbors will welcome, so that we don't waste the times for everybody. And I hope that you can identify something, alternative options, changing the code, change the zoning code, encourage those appropriate development of the sites. And so with that is, I think it's just really, I hope that you can hold off any future application until the zoning change is becoming effective. I hope that, based on the conversation here, it's October this year. And so that we don't have anything slided in before that coding, zoning code change. And that's my request. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anthony Bonicatti, you were able to speak now?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, hello, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much. I do appreciate the time, everybody. I do want to start off by saying that I do oppose, me and my wife do oppose the
Sir, if I
proposal.
could get you to
Oh,
identify
yes, sir.
yourself
Yes,
by
sir.
name and address before you
I
get
do
going.
apologize. I do apologize. Anthony Conti, 8129 Basswood Lane. I do apologize. I do want to start off again by saying that we do oppose the proposal for the warehouse. The people that have, put the cause out there before me have said pretty eloquently why. And I've been at the last meeting, so my stance hasn't changed. I am concerned about the wildlife, but I'm also a new parent, and that is something that's new. I got a 3-month old at home, and I got a 2-year-old at home. So, and I just noticed things, and in my neighborhood, I just noticed over time that the traffic has increased around the neighborhood, and on Lamont Road and 83rd Street, without a warehouse anywhere around. And with that traffic increase, it's increased the traffic through my neighborhood, basically right through it. And in fact, it's just kind of coincidental that I almost got hit walking my dogs because a gentleman, and I know where he lives right on the neighborhood next to me, was going about 50 miles an hour. And that's just not cool. And I speak from the heart. And again, my predecessors have said things more eloquently than I could probably say, but I'm just worried. I'm worried about the wildlife. And we moved out here because it was awesome, and we are privileged and feel honored to live in this neighborhood. And we don't want to go anywhere. We feel bad for the people that do want to get out of here. We do, but it's just not the right proposal, and it's got to be better. And like I said, the traffic will increase through it here. It just will, and that puts our kids at risk. And I just can't, just don't want that to happen. So again, my concerns have stayed the same, with a little bit added now that I am a parent. And I just wanted to voice again, me and my wife, that we are against this proposal. We will be at any further meetings, and we will do what we have to do to make sure that it doesn't go through. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have nobody else on Zoom to speak.
Okay, thank you so much. I'd like to again thank everyone. We will now conclude our public comment portion of our meeting. And I'd like to ask if our village board members have any questions or comments regarding this pre-application proposal. I'd like to open it up to the village board, please.
Madam Mayor, I have a couple questions.
Yes, please, Trustee Page.
And forgive me, I'm bad with names. The gentleman that gave the presentation, I'm following up on a question she asked, but I'm going to use your phrasing. You said truck docks 22 at this current juncture. Is there you use current juncture. Is there a possibility with the current design we're seeing for additional truck docks?
Sir, if you could speak into the microphone.
As proposed, there are 22 on the current plans. That's our intent right now. If, as mentioned also elsewhere, it is a speculative development. So depending on the end user during the tenant improvement process, that tenant can make operational changes and go in for permitting and make requests of the village. But as of day one, our intent is to sell 22 dock packages.
Based off of that side of the building, how many truck docks could it feasibly hold?
Can I defer to Kelly Harris, our architect, to ask him? I don't know off the top of my head, Kelly. About 35 in total, so still substantially less from the prior application.
Lovely, let's keep going. You mentioned a screen wall of cedar. What is the soundproof possibility with cedar?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So we were trying to take advantage of the lessons learned from the prior applicant. So they had a cedar fence that seemed to be something that was well received. I would say it's both for visual aesthetics as well as, it's a wall or a fence that creates sound attenuation by deflecting any sound that hits that wall in the opposite direction. So I can't speak, I'm not a material scientist. I can't speak to the specific qualities of cedar fencing. And perhaps cedar at this point is this is a very preliminary plan. So perhaps that fence can change materials. We're open to that. It was just something that we felt was positively received during the past prior application.
You just use the,
Sorry.
nope.
Just on sound. I'll just, another reminder of the berm that's being created adjacent to the residents to the west that potentially will have a lot of soil to remove potentially, so we can make that berm probably close to 10 feet, if not higher. And our plan is to vegetate the top of that berm with trees. I did a project down in Bolingbrook where it was a similar application, and actually the buildings were actually closer to the residents. And we have since interviewed those residents after the fact, and there is minimal sound disparage with that berm and with vegetation. And then to remind everybody that that is another 400 feet away from the building and the truck docks. And then as well, there's a precast concrete wall that blocks the truck court along with the distance for the detention, along with the berm and vegetation that will also dampen any noise in the truck court. And then lastly, if you want to get technical, and this is from an attorney friend of ours, the wind 11 months out of 12 months blows from west to east. And so noise does not transfer as well when the wind is blowing from west to east. And we can show you that study.
Let's go back to what you just said about concrete. So where the truck dock is, there's going to be, or maybe it's a turnaround, where's the concrete wall going to be?
So when you see that circular turnaround, you see a L-shaped precast concrete wall that is the same material, similar, not the exact same material, but very similar material than the precast walls of the warehouse. And that is a 14-foot high wall that could be painted any color the residents want.
I think we're more worried about sound than
Yep.
color. I'm just saying.
Sorry.
Tell me your name again.
The only other, Joe, apologies, Joe Noon.
You use the phrase preliminary plan. What feasibly could change? So you're saying 40, well, you're saying 28, but it's really 40 once you think about the ground. Could that change? What exactly of what you're telling me can change?
I think we need further study, and it's based on feedback that we receive here. But, you know, every developer that's come through in the prior applications has been pushed to the brink to where they ultimately dropped the opportunity. And similarly, you know, we're really doing our best to address any concerns we heard in the last process and come hat in hand with those up front, as opposed to asking for a bigger building and working our way down. We're starting, you know, where we can get, you know, that. So I would say it's preliminary in the sense that there's still technical review processes that have to take place. You know, there's all the materials, all of those things need to be further reviewed, but we've already lowered, and Matt is here on behalf of CBRE and markets these properties day in and day out. And we're already, you know, I don't know of many, if any, buildings built to 28-foot clear these days. They're normally built to 32, 36, and typically 40. So I just don't see realistically a way to lower the building height. We've focused on being code compliant, and we're moving heaven and earth in our eyes to try and do that. But that's, and quite literally earth, given the grade elevation changes that take place on the site. And so literally moving mounds of dirt to try and lower the impact of the height on the surrounding community.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, please. Trustee Krusek.
Okay, on where the dock doors are, you have the two wings, parapets, whatever we want to call them, coming off of the building. How far, because I can't really tell, how much of the trucks, when they're backed up into those docks, would be sticking out past that?
Sir, you got to speak into the microphone so everyone can hear you at home.
Kelly Harris, Harris Architects. So that wall, that for extension is 50 feet. So the trailer is 53, so about maybe 20 feet of the truck will be exposed. The cab would be exposed.
Okay, is there any way to block that, at least on the west end?
Yeah, you could put additional extension of a wall beyond that screen wall.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else, please?
Madam Mayor.
Yes, please. Trustee Martinez?
A suggestion was made by one of our residents as to the size of the building. And you have, Trammell Crow and CBRE have expressed the fact that this is preliminary and that we're still looking at different options, etc. Is in the consideration to reduce the size of the building as it was suggested by one of the residents.
You can speak to it from a market standpoint.
Well, you go ahead and talk to me from a
Yeah. So from a developable standpoint and a financial standpoint, the cost to construct goes dramatically up as you reduce the size of the footprint of the building because you lose all economies of scale that come with construction materials, labor, et cetera. So not only that, you dramatically hamper the ability of a developer to pay for land value. So I would say, generally speaking, it's very difficult in this cost environment to build a smaller building. We've striven and taken every step possible to try and deliver a product that is smaller and taking into account what the residents are requesting, but is still conceivable given the way costs are occurring in this environment. So is there room to move? We can try and study it, but I would say it's pretty limited at this juncture. Thank you.
I got one more question. I realize it's a spec building, so you don't know who will be using the building. But are you planning a 24-hour operation for this facility? Number one, and number two, in consideration of that, have you considered doing a traffic analysis, how it will impact the neighborhood along Amon Road and other surrounding areas?
So as it relates to a traffic study, that would absolutely be a requirement of any ultimate application. So yes, we will have to commission a traffic study if we proceed. I think our good gesture was to reduce the size of the building, thus reducing employee car parks that could potentially take place and truck trips through the reduction of docks. So our expectation is the traffic study, you could look at the prior applicants as an upper end worst case bound, and then we will commission an updated traffic study that takes into account our specific site in the future if we proceed with an application. As for the speculative nature of the development, yes, it is a speculative opportunity, and thus any restrictions on dock use or 24/7 operations dramatically reduces the ability to effectively market the development. While a majority of tenants don't necessarily take advantage of docks 24/7, there are peak hours in the morning and in the early afternoon where docks are active, generally speaking. But restricting that up front really hampers the ability to market the property because tenants can't be flexible in their operations, which is critical to their well-being as a business. So that would be my response at this time. And Matt can speak to that further since he markets these properties regularly.
Thank you. Just say from a market standpoint, we as a team, we analyzed the size and the clear height pretty extensively to really get Trammell Crow to push forward with having interest in the development. And what we analyzed was the real estate that was adjacent to the communities, Woodridge, Bolingbrook, Romeoville, Darien, McCook, and really understanding what has been built, who leases what are buildings being built today, and analyzing from that perspective. Obviously we would be the lowest clear of any new construction that would be built, so that's a risk on our side, but we feel that we can still be successful for the tenants that would relocate to this area. We've analyzed the tenant base that would relocate to this area or move from this area. And we feel confident with the dock count that we provided. You can see on the site plan, there's a green area in the middle of those docks. And that would be an aesthetically pleasing area in the back that we would not want to excavate. And for a tenant that takes 100,000 square feet with 11 docks, that's 1 per 10,000 square feet. And if you travel through the Woodridge Bolingbrook area after hours, you'll see minimal activity in the majority of the buildings. Yes, you'll still see activity after hours, but the majority of the activity in buildings in those areas is very minimal. And that is specifically who we're targeting for that type of user, 100,000 square feet with 11 docks.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes,
Thank
please,
you.
Trustee Blair.
You said, because I picked up on what Trustee Page, that was going to be my question too with the docks. So right now, at this juncture, you're planning on 22 docks. Would those be towards the east or would they be towards the west? Because you said that you could fit as many as 35, correct?
Sorry, all the docks are on the southern side of the building.
Right, but they're on the south side, but they're this way. They're going to line up from east to west, correct?
Yes, yeah.
So would the 22 be starting at the east or would they be starting at the west?
So there's two different pockets. There's one on the northern side and one on the one on the eastern side of the building and one on the western side of the building, both on the south side.
Okay.
So those are the 22 docks. And if a tenant were to require higher docks and go through their permitting process, the middle space would be where any additional docks could potentially be added. But as Matt said, we're trying to target 2 100,000 square foot tenants, and 1 per 10,000 is generally a market acceptable condition.
Now, will there be like a knockout ready?
Yeah, usually it's a precast panel that has the ability to knock out a portion to install a future dock package. We don't generally do that up front because often tenants don't require as many docks as the developer initially delivers. And so we're always trying to size the appropriate amount of docks to the size of the building, and we think we've done that here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, please?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Trustee Abbott.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions.
Yes.
I see on the site plan, it looks like you're talking about car parking, 280 stalls, but I can't tell from the diagram where the cars would be parking at. Can you help me on that?
Absolutely. So there's car parking on both the east and west side of the building, as well as the north side of the building. The reason for providing it on both the east and west and the north is that if you were to demise the building down the middle, that way employees can park in their respective areas associated with where they lease space. So a tenant that's on the east side of the building can park closest to their east side of the east entrance. So does that help clarify it?
It does. Thank you.
What? Yeah. Again, we're close to code on that as well, and striving to be code compliant on every aspect of this development.
Okay. And just so I'm clear, did you say that you were initially looking to market it to 2 tenants?
I think realistically, that's a realistic outcome. Obviously, we'd love to market it to a single tenant. And we're trying to design a building that is attractive to a different size range of tenants, whether it be 1, 2, or even smaller tenants. So we're really trying to maximize the leasability of the building, thus generating the highest potential tax revenue, both from a property value standpoint, as well as sales tax from the number of employees that are then going out and spending within the community. So we're trying to design a building that can accommodate a variety of different user sizes, whether it be a single tenant building or what we think is very likely a multi-tenant 2-tenant building.
Okay. And the footprint for this site plan, is it the exact same footprint as the CA Ventures?
No, it's slightly different. Again, we shrunk it from.
Well, I'm sorry. I don't mean the building. I don't mean to interrupt you. But I wasn't clear.
Ah.
Talking about the building, I'm talking about the parcels of land that
That's
make
correct.
up. It's the same? Okay. And am I correct that looking, because one of my issues last time I was concerned about was the traffic. And I just want to make sure I'm seeing this accurately, that it would have 2 entrances and exits onto Lamont Road. And it looks like the one on the north side would be right in, right out only. Am I seeing this correctly?
Yeah, we're basically picking up where CA Ventures left off on that front as well, or sorry, the prior applicant left off on that front as well, given all the progress made with DOT to ensure safety and traffic impacts. So we're more or less falling in line with what you've reviewed previously on the access perspective.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, please?
I have one additional question. It's actually for Director Porter. I want to follow up on something Trustee Martinez said. I'm pretty sure we do. Do we have an ordinance regarding noise and sound like after 9 p.m.?
We do have performance standards. So there are noise requirements that the police department monitor, and then there are performance standards as well for various aspects of development.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, please. Trustee Krusek?
I have a question for Attorney Pat regarding the upcoming zoning code changes and that. Can you explain what that means in this area if it did get changed?
Well, with respect to existing zoning, property owners do have a right in their existing zoning. If they were to seek to develop the property, they could do so within the existing zoning regulations. If there are changes to the zoning, those would not necessarily impact the existing property owners. Those rights may be vested in many instances, but a subsequent owner would be subject to the revised zoning.
Thank you.
Anyone else, please? Okay, seeing no one, we do thank everyone this evening for your attention and your time, as well as the presentation of information for us. We truly appreciate all of the work that has gone into coming before us on this proposed pre-application. First of all, I'd like to again be sure to tell everyone to please take good care in these times and do stay connected with us. As there's no further business to discuss this evening, I'd like to please ask for a motion to adjourn our specially called village board meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Martinez. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Krusek. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, This meeting is adjourned and the time is 8:29 PM.